Hey guys, what's up? It's Rob at GameTime Sports Collectibles, and we're back again, and we're doing a little bit of content today. And I'm here with my friend Justin Lamlin, who is from the Southern Ohio area, and I'm going to have him introduce himself a little bit, and then we're going to kind of preview the questions we're going to dive into. But I kind of feel like being in Southern Ohio gives him a unique perspective on some of these topics that are going on in the hobby and specifically about running a business like a card shop and that sort of thing. So, Justin, if you can just kind of introduce yourself and tell
Gotcha.
us a little bit about yourself.
Hello. My name is Justin Lamblin, as he mentioned. I own the sports card shop in Wheelersburg, Ohio, called Field of Dreams Sports and More. I've had that store for roughly 12 years, a little over 12 years. And, you know, being from, like Rob said, like a very small town in Southern Ohio, pretty much almost in Kentucky, um, we are faced with, poverty, things like that. So being able to keep the store open as long as I have has actually been a very, very big blessing. And I have a lot of people to thank for that. But, and that's not why you're here. But I just wanted to, pretty much say, I appreciate the support down there in Willisburg that anybody has shown over the last 12 years. I've had a lot of repeat customers. This year, I've had several new customers getting into the hobby that haven't been in the hobby for a while or have never been in the hobby, just getting into it with their kids due to their kids being in Pokemon and their parents getting into the sports card side of things. So just kind of a diverse area down there. And along with the store, I have the Willisburg, Ohio monthly card and collectible show, which is conveniently located like 8 steps away from my front door of my store. So that helps out a lot. And I also do the Midway Madness at the Scioto County Fairgrounds. I had two of those in 2025. Looking forward to two, three, four possibly in 2026.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. So, you mentioned, you know, right in the beginning that you've been at this for about 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's about what we're at, 12, 13 years, maybe, I don't know, somewhere really close to that. And, we've seen a lot of changes, and I feel like this is, some of the things that we can talk about that we're going to get into. But I mean, the number of card shops, the number of shows that are out there has quadrupled probably in the last 10 years. So to be at it for 10 years, I mean, some people are just now getting in it, just now throwing their money in it. But, you've been at it for 12 years. So you have a good run. And I think, we're going to have an interesting discussion here based on our experience
Mm-hmm.
in business and in this hobby. So here's the questions we're going to talk about. And then I'll let him get started. But what are some unique challenges that he faces being in a smaller city in Southern Ohio, Appalachia? What advice would you give to a new collector or a new potential dealer? And how do you balance what you feel are business expectations versus what you're comfortable with for a proper, like, kind of work life balance? So, a lot of these, I have a lot of questions myself, a lot of input into, and I'm sure Justin does. So, we'll go ahead and get started. So, the first question I'm just going to throw at Justin, and then I'll have some comments too, is what are some unique challenges you face being in a smaller city in Southern Ohio?
So one of the main challenges is to getting, a lot of customers to understand that we're there or I'm there. Um, of course, you get into these bigger cities and you notice, shops are full of customers all day long. Um, Basically, I may see a tenth of what a shop an hour north would see in a day or a week, month, whatever. And if you can, sustain a, healthy business relationship with your customers, that they won't want to go anywhere else. And like I said, I'm fine with, people shopping elsewhere, especially if I don't have an item. Like I'll refer, customers up here even. There's a shop, 10 minutes away from my store. Josh, great guy. He has stuff sometimes that I don't have, so I'll just refer somebody down that way. And as long as we can keep money local in the communities without, it's easy to order on eBay, Dave and Adams, Blowout, Steel City, all those. I appreciate anybody who supports local, like my store, Rob's, anybody else's, and is able to keep that money local to where we can spend it local as well, going out to dinner with our families or buying gifts for loved ones, especially around the holidays. It's crucial to support small business around this time of year for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of the follow-up questions, I guess, from a lot of what you said, do you feel like online ability, social media, that sort of stuff, do you think it helps level the playing field with both your sales and maybe the marketing?
Um, so it just depends on how much I want to put into the online selling. Because I don't do a lot on eBay. I do a little bit, but it's mainly the stuff that just kind of sits in the shop, stale inventory, kind of just put it on there. Uh, Facebook Marketplace isn't really a huge deal for me, just because it's difficult to figure out meeting times and things like that with potential customers, and it just relates to being able to find like time in the shop to put stuff out online. I like in-person transactions better than online 100%. Like I would give up online selling completely if it meant to have more customers coming in my store.
Mhm. Yeah, I get that, and we're going to talk about this when we get to question three about making that balance of what we would prefer, what is our vision of like doing a shop and stuff, and what is a necessary evil, I guess, to be competitive. And again, I struggle with that. And I was just follow up question still to one. I know we talked about you had some unique challenges being there in Southern Ohio. Do you feel like there's any benefits to being just in that community down south?
I mean, the only benefit that I would see, mainly, I mean, there might be more benefits that I could think of in the future, but like just basically being, one of the only shops around that has, a good selection of singles, and what wax I do provide to my customers, and them not having to drive an hour, 2 hours, or just ordering that card or box of cards or bobblehead or whatever online, just to kind of keep it local, like going back to the previous
Mhm.
statement. But I just think that I'm in a good place, great location. Can't really beat Willisburg. It's probably one of the better areas in Scioto County.
Yeah, and that's
Great,
almost like a suburb of
yeah,
Portsmouth.
for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
I grew up in Portsmouth. I live in West Portsmouth now, and sports are wild down there. Like we got Willisburg, great at baseball, really good at football, still in the playoffs. Portsmouth still in the playoffs. That was my alma mater. They got in off of the Ironton, whole forfeit. That's a whole different topic. But just very very blessed for the community, being able to support, sponsor teams, things like that, and just I'm in a good place. That's really about it.
Okay. So we have, and this is going to be uh, part one of question B, I guess. So we have a lot of people walk in and give us, or not give us stuff, walk in and try to sell us stuff, try to move it to us. They either just have no interest, have a financial situation going on, or they need to sell their inventory or whatever collectibles they've had. For us, a lot of times, because we're a little farther south from the main area of Columbus, Ohio, so we're 25 miles south of that, but a lot of people don't are not looking to drive to Columbus. We had a lady in here the other day. She's like, I don't do that. I don't drive to Columbus. And she was a little bit older, but I was just wondering, do you feel like being down there, does it give you some unique buying opportunities where people don't want to travel, where maybe having a business, you might have the cash to put out to kind of be able to make some deals that maybe would go elsewhere?
Yeah, so definitely, I mean, during certain times of the month, financially, it just depends on how well the shop's going, through the way for the month. So, I see a lot of people bringing in cards and other, miscellaneous collectibles. And just the other day, I had a customer. I deal with her quite a bit, and she lives probably an hour south, in Kentucky, and she wishes that my shop was closer, which is kind of a great thing to hear, because
Mhm.
she could go, anywhere else through Kentucky, West Virginia, other shops in Ohio, but for her to choose to come to my little store, my little hole in the wall, kind of deal in Willisburg, Ohio, is a great feeling. Um, I wish I had about 20 more of her, to keep me pretty well stocked with, the latest and greatest, baseball, basketball, football cards.
Mhm.
But I'm just thankful that she's able to kind of be my little honey hole and, provide me with some great stuff. And I have other customers like that, of course, as well.
Mhm.
But she's been more of like the most frequent, consistent seller of,
Mhm.
quality cards. And, we could sit here and talk about, I'm sure you guys see it a lot, 90 Donruss coming in boxes.
Oh, yes.
And you have to just, break their hearts because not only is
Yes.
the player, bad, it's like that was one of the most overproduced
Produce
sets of all
products.
times.
Yes.
So, and then they see like certain prices of those cards on Google and they try to show you and think
Mhm.
you're taking advantage of them. And
Yes.
we're not at all.
No.
We're trying to put, what's best for us as a buyer to sell the stuff
Yeah.
and them to kind of understand what they've got. And a lot of people understand it and some don't. So you have to kind of see good with the bad whenever it comes to that.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you. So, yeah, we'll go on to question two. And just to kind of set up question number two, um, we have seen I would say, a big influx of new collectors, new people into the hobby in the last 5 or 6 years with COVID. And then again, there seemed to be another little rush about a year ago or whatever of new people coming in. What advice would you give a new collector that's entering the market the way it is right now?
Don't try to collect what your friends collect. Um, Basically, don't keep up with the Joneses. Like I say that a lot. Um, for me, if somebody walks into my store and says, "What do you think I should collect?" Well, I can't answer that. You have to know what you want to collect. And if you want to just be a collector, you can't look to buy it for what a reseller should be able to pay for it, if that makes sense. Because a collector is going to keep it for the long haul. And there's got to be a distinguished difference in the two from a collector and a seller standpoint, in my opinion.
Okay. So, as a new collector, is there something that you think maybe they should do specifically? As a new collector, do you think it's important that they set a budget, for instance, or anything like that?
I mean, of course, that has a lot to do with it as well. I mean, if you're, working on a tight budget, if you, have an X amount of dollars after your paycheck from work, or you get an allowance from your parents if you're, a little kid or something, just focus on what is best for you, and just you know, don't feel like you're going to pull the top end card out of this product or this product. You got to kind of just expect, to go out to a show or a shop and just find what you like and make it work for you. And you know,
Mhm.
don't try to keep up with the Joneses, like I was saying before.
Yeah.
Just do what's best for you in all aspects of your life.
Yeah. So, and when Bill and I talk, he'll get on this question a lot, and he gets a little bit, I don't want to say angry, but he gets a little bit negative about everybody thinking they're a dealer.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's kind of understandable, for you to have a side hustle or whatever, it kind of can help keep your hobby going. So, if you were somebody who's into collecting now and you're thinking about being a potential dealer, is there things that you would do and things that you would avoid?
Um, yeah. So if I was a collector, which I guess we could go back to saying I was at one time before I bought the store, but of Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh and things like that, I just, I had my little collection, and then stuff that I wanted to not keep in my collection anymore, I would put out and sell it at like the Pokemon tournaments that we had in Portsmouth, or, I sold it to, Shane Sports Cards back then in the 90s. Um, I would sell it for, to get other product to try to pull, that one card that I wanted to put in my collection. And, nowadays, like you were saying, everybody wants to be a dealer. And I don't think that many people know just what it takes to put in the time and the effort. Like, I'm going to name drop real quick Gary LeMaster.
Hmm.
He's a great guy and everything. He just makes it work. Like, he sets his percentage that he wants to spend. If the
Hmm.
deal's not for him, there's more deals out there.
Hmm.
So I guess we could kind of look at it like, if you
Hmm.
watch his videos of what he does, his content,
The ball card show.
the ball card show.
Hmm.
I don't know the little saying, I can't remember right offhand,
Yeah,
but
I don't need.
um, I guess you could kind of take notes from them and multiple other,
Mm-hmm.
sources of, info
Mm-hmm.
to kind of put your own little notepad down and see what
Mm-hmm.
just works best for you in all aspects of all that.
Yeah. So, it's one thing to be a dealer, to have a side hustle, but it's another thing to start a shop. So if you were talking to somebody out there right now that was wanting to start a shop, I'm gonna hit you with two questions.
Mm-hmm.
One, would you start a shop? How would you go about doing that? And this is the second part. Do you think you must be direct with Tops to make a shop work in 2026, let's say?
So I would say that if you wanted to start a shop, if you had, aspirations and dreams about doing this, I would say go for it, and just realize that sometimes, you'll have those days where you may not want to, be in business anymore. Like I've had, struggles with that over my 12 years of just,
Mhm,
is this what I still want to do?
mhm,
And, if this is all you do, this is what all I do. Of course, I have a few other side hustles as well. But if you just focused on, running the store, you have to branch out and just more than just, your standard wax supplies and singles like in Southern Ohio. And now it may be easier to do things up north in Columbus, Grove
mhm,
City, wherever else. But you just do what you feel is right for your budget, your finances, your family, and if you can make it work, I say, more power to you.
mhm,
And I would, I'm always up for a road trip to a new store.
mhm. Yeah, absolutely. So, as far as being direct with Tops, do you think you've got to be direct with Tops to make a successful shop in 2026? Let's say.
So I'll just use me as an
Hmm.
example. I am not direct
Hmm.
with Tops. I get mine, allocations elsewhere,
Hmm.
and I'm thankful for all the deals I do get. No, in my opinion, you do not have to be direct with Tops to make a successful shop work.
Hmm.
Now, my successful term, Rob's successful term,
Hmm.
Bill's successful term, they're all going to be,
Hmm.
different definitions.
Hmm.
So for the amount of time that I've had my store, 12 and a half years pretty much,
Hmm.
um, I have never once been direct with any company. I have distribution, centers, things like that,
Hmm.
but I I don't feel it's necessary for me and where I'm located.
Hmm.
Now, if you get into, different markets, you
Hmm.
may want to see about being direct because it
Hmm.
could definitely help your, allocations on newer products, things like that. But no, in my opinion,
Hmm.
where I'm at located in Willisburg, Ohio, I don't think you need to be Tops direct.
Okay. And I agree with you actually, that you don't need to be Tops direct. Now, I would think, and I think it's significant, and our last question is where I think we're going to spend some time, really just brainstorming and stuff like that. But I would agree with you that you do not need to be direct with Tops. And I was just telling you just before we went on here, one of the big epiphanies that I had when we were doing part of this process that we did right now to kind of free up some space. I initially started this project or pushed that the shop would go this direction, to please Tops and to keep Tops pleased. But I know I've made purchases from Tops that I regret for the idea of future allocation. And I think one of the more freeing things is to just be like, I'm not here to please Tops. I'm here to please my family, the people I'm in business with, and the customers
Yep.
that come in here. Now, I would say it does depend on what your definition of success is. To Tops, the average card shop does $2 million a year and has 2.5 employees besides the owner. If that's your definition of success, then yes, you probably need a chunk of money to start a shop, and you want to get direct with Tops as quickly as you can. If your definition of success is, I just want to make a living doing this, and I'm going to do a little of this and a little of that because that's what works in my area,
Mhm.
then I don't think you need to be direct with Tops. And I know people are throwing out crazy dollar amounts. Like, I even heard Bill and say, well, if you've got less than $250,000 to start a shop, then you don't even bother, and that sort of thing. So I think there's more than one way to skin a cat, or whatever one of those idioms are. And I think there's more than one way to make things happen. And you and I both are sitting here and basically made things happen and are successful in our own definitions of what that might mean. And we both started with basically nothing. There wasn't a $50,000 thing that a grandpa gave me or something.
Definitely not.
Yeah, nothing like that. Now, I would say that if I was going to start a shop, I would think 50,000 would be a good place at this market at this time to really start and
Mhm.
get rolling in the average community of like 15, 20,000 people in the United States. I think that would be a pretty good mark, but I don't think you've got to be direct with tops, and I wouldn't forsake my own personal vision of what is successful, or what would make a shop work to please a company that is offering you distribution. So that would be my feeling on that one. So then this is another question and again, this is a little bit more like me and you were just sitting around talking business on this last one specifically. But how do you balance what you feel are business expectations versus what you're comfortable with yourself, and keeping in mind like a proper work life balance, that sort of thing?
So my expectations, like, to be, getting up early, grinding, all day long during my business hours, and still finding time, during the day to figure out what's going on at my home, what plans I have with my, wife. And by the time I get home from the store, I still find myself at times pricing cards, looking up deals.
Mm-hmm.
And, small businesses don't real like a lot of people don't realize small businesses, they're not just open from the business hours of noon to 6 like my store. you know I'm like 24/7 round clock, Monday through Friday, and then the weekends as well, even though I'm not open on weekends currently.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel that it's necessary for me to always be one step ahead of myself, not so much anybody else, just one step ahead, 1% better every day, figuring out, what I can do differently to only be business minded during my hours, and then go home and spend time with my wife before she goes to, bed, because she works in the mornings
Mm-hmm.
and gets up and things like that. But, I'm this one was the question that I thought was going to kind of be iffy as far as like quick and prompt
Mm-hmm.
responses. So
Yeah.
that was my whole take on it, and
Yeah.
that's pretty much it.
Yeah, no, I do. I get what you're saying. So, for me, that whole idea of balancing the expectations, again, it almost goes back to the tops question,
Mhm.
because I do feel like tops expects certain things. So if you're direct with tops, you already, besides your own expectations on yourself, or maybe what your family's expectations are, or your business partners, if you have business partners, expectation is, it's what's tops want also.
Sure.
So that's always in the background of my mind. And I've been dragging my feet about getting back into Whatnot, that sort of thing, just because I don't know if I want to.
Mhm.
Now, I know that might sound crazy. Like certain people are like, no, it's a necessary thing. Like in a couple of years, your business is not going to be doing well if you don't establish that. I, I'm not sure. And I'll be honest. Years ago, and this is probably had to be 10 years ago now. I had a couple email conversations back and forth from Sean from Still City Collectibles, which they were a big deal then. 10 years ago, I was honored, or whatever, humbled that he would take a few minutes and look at my business plan and come back to me and say, "Hey, this is what you need to do." Well, what he told me I needed to do, because I said, "Well, I'm trying breaking," and he's like, "You don't need to try breaking. There's no trying breaking. You have to get a breaking page established and working." So I would do it on my own. I would try to do it. Well, I had to make a decision. And I made a decision that I wasn't going to miss all my little girls' softball games. I wasn't going to miss all of her band stuff as she got into middle school and high school and those sort of things. And I chose not to build or try to build a successful break page to the detriment of my personal life and other things that are going on. Now, I feel like I'm doing pretty well. Now, I'm going to give it to Sean at Still City that 10 years ago told me that that's what I needed to do, because I would have a larger business. I would have multiple employees. I would make more money. But it's, again, going back to our definition of success. For me, I'm successful because tomorrow at 1 o'clock, I can go eat lunch with my wife. That's what makes me, the freedom is actually how I define success. And I've been able to make a living doing this for 6 or 7 years now. And I'm able to continue to do that and add things like an employee and things like that. And, sometimes I'm sure people question, like, well, why pay an employee? Just get in there yourself and just, commit to XYZ hours. And I'm like, well, if I do that, yeah, sure, I have $25,000 more a year income, but am I happy? And I think it's really just a choice. Now, I'm going to throw this back on you because, first of all, I'm going to compliment you
Mm-hmm.
before I do. I think people sometimes look at you or look at me or other people like us, and they say, well, why isn't he doing this? Or why isn't he doing that? Or doesn't he know he needs to definitely get on Whatnot? And doesn't he need to do that? That sort of thing. I see your social media stuff. I see the videos you post. I realize how much you're working. And in my opinion, you have the proper mindset. This isn't that you have a poverty mentality or anything like that. It's that you're making choices of what's best for your business. But as far as that sort of thing goes, you're like a Southern Ohio Gary V, so to speak. I've seen some of your, inspirational
Wow.
kind of thing. You know what I'm saying,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so you're more like that. I feel like I, for the most part, have the proper mindset.
Yeah.
It's just we're making choices. So do you feel that other people, what's holding them back could be their mindset? First of all, let's ask that question.
I mean, mindset's everything, whether it be, looking at somebody and being envious, jealous, wishing I had that, because it's easy to do that. You see something while scrolling through Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and you see this big breaker breaking thousands, of dollars worth of cases.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, of course, that'd be awesome to have, but you would have less time on your hands if you just did it all yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I have never had an employee. I've had, friends that have helped do certain things throughout, my 12 years. And I thank them for that. Mike, Shane, everybody that's, down that way, you know who you are. And I just feel that, the whole Whatnot situation and, being envious, and it can take more stress and more toll on your body. Like, cause I don't work out, as you can see. That's stressful
Mm-hmm.
to want to keep up with a certain show promoter that
Yes.
does big things in certain areas, or has a shop that has way more product than you. And it's easy to sit here and say, like, I want that,
Mm-hmm.
but I do enough to where I'm content
Mm-hmm.
with being successful, like
Mm-hmm.
we were talking about, and not
Mm-hmm.
doing everything to keep up with what the next person's doing that you see on social media.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. And I look at, and other people are going to say, well, this was crazy. Like Ryan, Ryan from Card Collector too, and I did Grove City Card Fest a couple of months ago. Had a brief conversation with him. Logan, we're kind of part of Logan from Great Sports Cards.
Great guy.
Yeah, great guy. Kind of part of his story, and all that sort of thing. But I sometimes, well, other people might look at Ryan with jealousy, although not saying that what he has done is not amazing, because it
Mm-hmm.
is.
For sure.
I, as a little bit older, 15 years older, 20 years older than Ryan, probably. I don't know. Yeah, not quite 20, 15 years older or so than Ryan. And I'm looking at him going, do, do you ever break?
Yeah.
Do you ever take a break? Do you ever rest? Did you just fly in from somewhere? Do you get to see your kid enough? And all those sort of things. And so he's doing great, but I'm looking at him as a whole person going, do you get a break? I hope it's not costing you too much, which he's very smart. I'm sure it's not. And the same thing with Logan. Logan just had a baby not too long ago, and,
Mm-hmm.
and those sort of things, and happily married and all that. And so I'm kind of like seeing them all over Whatnot. I'm seeing them hustling show after show, flying across the country, and I'm just like, do you get to take a break? So sometimes, I look at them and I'm not willing to pay the price because my definition of success isn't that. My definition of success again is kind of a little bit of freedom. So I'll ask you another question, and it might spur more questions. But do you feel like confidence in yourself is something that's needed a little bit for business success in this
Absolutely.
in this market?
Yeah. Just because, you've seen my videos that I post
Mm-hmm.
sometimes in the morning, sometimes depending on where I'm at in the afternoons.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have had that same confidence a
Mm-hmm.
year ago.
Mm-hmm.
I made videos here and there, but I used to do Facebook Live sales for like random items that me and my buddies would pick up at estate
Mm-hmm.
sales or wholesale places, things like that. And I wasn't confident to show my face. So like you asking me to, be here this evening,
Mm-hmm.
um, I didn't know what to expect, if my nerves were going to be shot or whatever. I'm like, just it's another day. The
Mm-hmm.
phone's pointed at you, like, you're going live one the mornings and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
you just adapt, and that confidence seems to grow,
Yes.
every time I do a new video or post
Mm-hmm.
something motivational like I usually do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I absolutely think confidence is pretty significant in it. And that's not to sound arrogant
Mm-mm.
or whatever, but it's like I saw the thing, and I mentioned this before. I saw Nathan Burns from Grand Slam Sports Cards, Grand
Very
Slam Sports
successful.
Collect, very successful, and from nothing. Also, basically from nothing. I'm not sure if there was some kind of seed money there or whatever, but he went from two, $300,000 doing less than I was doing, say 7, 8, 9 years ago, to doing $7 million back a couple years ago. So a lot of that was breaking, and that he's built an awesome shop. But I saw him say that he took a couple pictures of his shop. I think it was after hours, and I saw him say that he was um, thankful or proud of what he had accomplished there because it was built, not bought.
Yep.
And so I know that probably rings true with you. And so you've been running at it for 12 years. I've been running at it for 12 years, even a little bit before that with some wax out at shows and stuff. And really, I'm not worried about the guy with $1 million. I,
Nope.
I, I mean, I'm not. And I know you do an excellent job at this. I'm not as good as you are at this, but you do an excellent job of, hey, I'm going to promote this guy's show. Hey, I'm going to give this guy a shout out. Hey, this guy's got a new business. I'm going to throw it out there on social media. And I think we need to do more of that because the guys that aren't doing that are just hovering in a corner, maybe scared or of what could happen if
Yeah.
this guy goes to this guy's shop or what could happen. But again, you got to have enough confidence. You and I, both of us, we didn't build our businesses with $1 million that we could go through
No.
and then it's going. We built it with something else that was inside us that told us that we could do this and that we could keep hustling and keep working and build it. And so I think that we're in a better place than the guy who just has, say, $100,000 even to start. So last question, and we'll end on this one, the content on this. If right now somebody was to walk into your shop and they gave you $100,000, would it change how you do your business?
Are you saying just gave me 100,000, or
Just
would they buy the business with that 100,000?
nope. They just gave you a
Just said,
hundred.
here you go.
Here's $100,000. Make the changes that you want to your shop. Would you change much?
I would change like different inventory. I wouldn't change how I run the shop.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't make it a museum. I would
Yeah.
purchase, maybe new lighting, as small as the new lighting, as far as, everything matching colorways, things like that. Like I wouldn't just blow it. I
Yeah.
wouldn't just spend it on museum type
Mm-hmm.
pieces that are going to look cool in the store,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm in the, in this to make money and support my family
Mm-hmm.
and make a name for myself as far as the deals that I give.
Mm-hmm.
Because just because something looks good don't mean it's going to sell good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And absolutely, in this business and in life in general, faithfulness to what you've decided to do and a good name a name that's got a good reputation behind it is absolutely essential and way more important than, again, $100,000
Yeah.
for sure. And if I was to ask myself the same question, I'm falling in line with Justin here. I don't change how I do things. I don't think I adjust much. It's
Mm-hmm.
more important to me to be loyal to people.
Yep.
Other people might not understand that, but it's more important for me to be loyal. It's more important that I give others an opportunity to be successful entrepreneurs than it is that I get the biggest piece of pie. You know what I
We
mean?
can
So
all eat.
yeah, we can all eat. Yeah, absolutely, we can all eat. So I think that if somebody was to give me $100,000, I don't think it changes much. I think I'm still doing a Facebook with my phone
Yep.
and $35 mics. I mean, I'm not sure, but I
Works just
think
as good.
it works just as good. I think that I am still wanting to be relatable to the community that I live in, and I want to, like, impact that community. And there's bigger things than cards at the end of the day, and the relationships. And I think we both feel this way. The relationships we're building with people are significant and important too.
Very important.
Yeah. So, again, I thank you for being here,
Yeah,
and I
absolutely.
appreciate it. And we'll get this